What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are back on the Yamaha 250FX. Last time we had this bike on the channel, we did the lowering kit, which was a rear lowering link, and then we got into the front forks and also did a lowering kit on the front forks, getting the bike sitting at a much better height for me. And after test driving it, everything felt super good. Although I did notice on that test drive that the throttle was sticking and it was kind of acting weird. So I don't know if it's something in the cable or something in the throttle itself. I think it's in the grip itself. So we got a box full of parts. Most of it is just graphics and things to make the bike look cooler. But we do have some new grips and a couple pieces pertaining to the throttle. So hopefully by getting those parts on there, we fix the sticky throttle situation. So let me show you what we got, and then we'll get into getting this bike looking good and running good. Now in the last video, we noticed the throttle has like almost zero return. I mean, well, it does have zero return. And it doesn't feel very good. It feels very scratchy. So I'm not sure if it's just something within this. I think it probably is because the cable seems to move very freely. So I'm thinking it's the piece inside the grip that has failed or is worn out or something and causing it to be very grabby. So we got these grips here from Pro Taper. These are like the clamp-on style, but it also replaces that internal piece. See, they give you a bunch of different throttle cams for all different bikes. So hopefully ours is in here. And then just to get the bike looking good, because we did strip all the graphics off this thing when we were going through it, we got some new graphics from Factory Effects. These are very similar to the ones that were on there. We got some new fork graphics we'll put on, fork guards, and then I did have some custom ones made, some number plates that we'll get on the front and on the rear quarters here. And I should get this bike looking pretty good. I also have some more spoke skins. I did have these on the bike at one point. Took them off because they were kind of getting damaged. So I'd like to go through and put those back on because I really like the look of the blue rim. You can see the original rims were the blue, and I definitely like that. The upgraded wheels, I could only get those in black, so I kind of lost that, but I think the spoke skins will kind of help to get some blue back on the wheels and give me that look that I like. So again, nothing major. Besides the throttle, the bike runs good. Everything is perfect in that respect. So we'll address that and then get this thing looking good. Get these graphics on here and we'll be good to go. All right, let's get into it. I guess we'll dig into that throttle first and see what's going on with that. This back here, we should have 2 screws. Let's see if I can do this without undoing everything here. Okay. Just going to add a little bit of lubrication in case that was where some of that grabbiness was. Alright, problem one solved. Okay, got our little donut, get that back on. Boom. Easy peasy. All right, grips are good. Nice and solid on that side. Throttle's perfect now. Grips are all at the right angle here. Everything's looking good. All right, next up, I guess let's start tackling some of these graphics. So, I suppose we'll jump right to the back here and get this one on. Cover up some of these scratches from the branches and stuff. Yeah, I'll start by just giving everything a quick wipe down. So I like to start by just cutting it out. Now with that done, what I like to do is remove a strip from the middle, so that way you can start to place the graphic without fully committing. It will help hold it in place just enough to where like you can get it where you want it and then start to peel away the backing, rather than just trying to go for it all at once, or trying to do like the stick and roll method and then you end up off on one of the ends. If you cut a strip right down the middle, it makes it a lot easier to where you can get it stuck but still pop it up if you need to. Super important to get any little pieces of crap because they will show up. Now this fender does have some scratching. Some of that might show through. These are pretty thick graphics, so hopefully they will not. So we'll kind of just start towards the end here and just see what things look like as we start to lay it out. Okay, that's looking nice. So I'm going to take a clean microfiber just for helping kind of press things down. I noticed if you do a lot of rubbing with your fingers, you'll leave these like small scratch marks. If you don't care about that, then obviously that's not that big of a deal. But if you want to avoid that, try not to be too aggressive with the pressing with your fingers, because it will do that. And just little at a time. You can use a hot air gun too, but sometimes I found that will do more harm than good. if you're doing good quality graphics and they're cut right, you just take your time. There you go. Okay, now for the other side, same thing. So now this area here where that dimple was, that's an area where I might go back with the heat and just try to sink that down in there a little bit more. Just so I don't get any peeling in that area. Alright, so very similarly, I'll cut a strip out of this one. And it's kind of difficult to tell where those curves are going to go and like how that reveal is going to sit going around everything. There we go. You know, so it's like, do you favor this side as a starting edge, this side as a starting edge? I'm going to try to match up this curve here and then see if I can get this side to also match up, and then this top portion, we'll just mess with that as we go and kind of see how it lays. Kind of bring this around. If we need to trim those edges a little, we can. And these fenders have some weird lines in them that can kind of look like you're getting bubbles, but and sometimes it might be bubbles. But in our case, it's not. So that was a difficult part right there on that crease, because you have those compound creases which try to wrinkle it up. But it laid out pretty nice, so. That's another little spot that when we kind of going around cleaning up afterwards, we'll pop that seat off. Just make sure that's trimmed up nicely. I think we'll kind of do the same thing. You would think the goal would be to keep these numbers as close together as possible. So we'll try to do that and see what ends up happening here. so far, seems to be doing pretty good. This is the tricky part here. So far, so good, though. Okay, so next, we got this little piece. Pop these little circles out. This might be one that's small enough where I think we can kind of just peel and stick. Just kind of see how the holes all line up and how that line there lines up. So it looks, if we keep that line parallel with the other one, that we should be good to go. So we'll start by sticking there. Bear with me, I'm kind of doing this at a weird angle so you guys can see. Alright, that's looking sick. Rear fender good to go. Rear quarter good. So now, let's jump towards the front. I'm sure you guys don't want to see the same ones done again, so I'll probably do this side off camera, which right now, it's only going to be this one rear quarter and that fork guard. So we'll kind of just keep wrapping around this way. We'll jump up to the number plate and the front fender. Give it a quick wipe down. So just little bits at a time. Beautiful. Okay, hopefully you guys can see good on this one. Got very little room here. All right, we're all cut out. Cut our middle piece out. This one's really tricky because the shape changes a lot as you start to stick it down, because it really has to fall into all those grooves. So I found the best way is just try to get that tip and this V lined up the best you can, and then everything after that you're just gonna be working it in. And then that's it. Just go from there and start getting around there. Get that down. Now we'll move back to this one, which has to kind of creases over this little ridge here. And this side falls down. Let's see if we can do the same with this one. It's like this first part right here where these creases meet up is where you can get into some trouble. You have to prioritize that crease and getting it down into there. Make sure there's no air there. That one, it lays down pretty easily without any air bubbles or anything. And then this one, just kind of keep it in line. As you get that down, hit that side, and then start to wrap over it and stick that down. That actually came out pretty good. Dare I say, perfect. Okay, here we go. So this one has got to go around this little guy here. Gonna strip out the middle. This will help us with placement a little bit, not as much as you would think, but then you use this bolt location down here to help you get that first arch on there. Just kind of keep rolling it over. A little bit of sticky stuff, but I got that off. Oh, to me it kind of looks a little busy, but I'm gonna keep these off for now. Seems like a bit much. Alright, so far we got the number plate done, front fender, fork guard, got our rear quarter, rear fender. I'll run around real quick, do the other rear quarter and fork guard, and then we can put the seat back on and see what it looks like. Almost forgot a part, guys. Forgot I got these. These never come out great on these swing arms because there's some imperfections there, and I don't feel like cleaning that all up right now, so. Okay, so these are pretty straightforward. You have quite a bit of wiggle room, so as long as you get it close and kind of just stretch it a little bit as you get it on. Just work that down. Bam. All right. Came out pretty good. No real issues besides, like I said before, there was a couple, like, I don't know, some of the edges, they weren't cut as cleanly as I've seen them cut in the past. So I had to like kind of go back with a razor and trim them up a little bit. But the colors all go together really good. It definitely added more blue because it got rid of a lot of the black and turned that into blue. So, but looks good. Got the swing arms on there. Those went on super easy. Front end, we didn't do the fork stickers yet. I don't know, I kind of like it better without them. Looks much better. Alright, well, next up, the thing I hate doing the most, spoke skins. So this is one of those things where anybody can do this, but depending on the techniques you use, it can either come out looking really nice or it can come out looking horrible. Now, if you just straight cut these and throw them on there it'll look all right, but you'll have a bunch of gaps at the hub and it will kind of look crappy. Now, if you don't care about that, whatever. If you want it to look nice, then there's a couple tips and tricks that you can use to get it done quickly and easily and accurately without sitting there and trying to custom cut every single spoke skin. So the first thing to remember is there's basically 4 different sets that you're going to have to cut. On each wheel, there are 2 different length spokes, and there's 2 different angles that have to be cut at the end so the spoke skin abuts the hub properly. Same for the rear. You're going to have 2 different sets, or 2 different sets that are at different lengths and slightly different angles. So it ends up being on this wheel 4 sets of 18 that you have to cut. Now, once you figure out the angles, it's fairly easy to just go ahead, cut all the angles at the end, rough cut the length, and then what you'll see is we'll place the spoke and then use a really sharp razor to just cut the end very nicely. And that way you don't have to try to sit there and pre-cut all of them to the perfect length. You can do that, but these things are kind of floppy and bendy and it's kind of annoying to do, but you can build like a little jig and do it that way. So we're going to start by first identifying our 4 different sets, like our patterns, and then we'll go ahead, get them all cut, and then we can just easily wrap around the wheel, getting them all put on. All right, so for our tools, pair of cutters, some sort of razor or X-Acto blade. So to make our first pattern, all we really need to do is find the seam, because we don't want our seam to be on the outside. We want the seam to be on the inside. So once we identify the seam, we just need to place the seam to the inside of the spoke and identify what angle we need on our hub. So in this case, from the seam side, we're going to cut roughly a 45-degree angle, confirm that that abuts the hub nicely, and then as far as length goes, we're just going to rough cut it basically to the nut, leaving ourselves like 1/4 inch, so that way when we place this on here, we can then take the X-Acto knife or razor and precisely cut it to length. Now, this will repeat. So this one size that we just did will do all of these spokes, the outer spokes on this side of the wheel, as well as all the outer spokes on the other side of the wheel, keeping that seam inside where you don't see it. So we'll have to cut 18 of those. Now, same thing with this. We're going to take a new one, hold it to the other spoke, which is going to be a different length and different angle, with the seam to the inside. We can see we need to cut the opposite angle on this one. It's going to go like that. We can hold that up to the hub and see that this one is significantly longer than the one we just did. So now with that rough cut, if I hold both of these up, you can see there's like a 3/8 to 1/4 inch difference in length. Now these aren't cut exactly to the right length yet, but once they are, you'll still see that there's like a 3/8, difference in the length and the angles. So as soon as you identify your 2 patterns per wheel, then it's as simple as cutting 18 of each of those and you're good to go. So let's cut a bunch of these and then we'll start putting them on. Okay, first thing we're going to do, identify that seam and cut the angle on all of these. So with the seam towards us, we need to cut down into the left at roughly 45 degrees. We'll give it a shot with some scissors here. See how that does it. That works pretty good. Now, we can get these bunched up. We can see our pattern is right here. We can rough cut all 18 of these, which will leave them about a 1/4 inch long. There we go. For the other pattern, very similar. Seam towards us. Angle's going to be on the other side now. There you go. That'd be one wheel, or 2 different spokes, 2 different angles, 2 different lengths. Let's get them installed. All right. So we're going to start with these outer ones. You can also start with the inner ones. These areas where they cross each other get very, very tight, and it can kind of be a pain. It's a pain either way you do it. So I'm going to start with the outer ones first. Then we'll move to the inner. We'll do the outer on both sides, then inner on both sides. There you go. So that is absolutely perfect. No gaps, no nothing. Alright guys, here she is. Came out good. Spokes look nice. These were, this time around, an absolute nightmare. Probably equal to this first time I did it with the really crappy brittle ones. These ones might not snap, but they kind of can kink up and wrinkle. I don't know if my spokes are just too thick. Like in the back, they almost don't even fully cover. But other than that, the process went fairly smooth as far as cutting and everything fitting perfectly and whatnot. But it definitely gives it that cool look. I actually kind of like it better than the blue wheels, having the blue and the black. Graphics look great. I hit everything with some ceramic coat spray to try to keep everything clean. Throttle feels great. It was puffing out some little bit of smoke, and I was like, what is going on? And I realized we probably cranked that throttle back like 100 times. So it ended up clearing up within about a minute or so. So it should be good. Looking good. Alright guys, well that's going to wrap it up for this one. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me while we did some modifications to the 250FX. Everything came out really good. The graphics went on super easy. The wheels look a lot better. The spoke skins are always a pain in the butt, but hey, we got them on. And next up is get this thing out in some of those trails and see how it does out there. So let me know in the comments if you guys want to see anything else done to this bike. I'm thinking maybe some exhaust stuff or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of sweet how it is, but you know, I'm always down to do some more upgrades to it. So let me know what you guys think. But either way, I appreciate you guys watching. If you're into this kind of thing, like, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one.